Bienvenidos de vuelta a la sala número 3 de Madrid Platform, en este pequeño e improvisada pausa que hemos tenido un poquito más larga. Espero que hayáis aprovechado para tomaros un buen café, porque seguimos cargados de contenido. Yo recuerdo que podéis tuitear con el hashtag Madrid Platform y mandaros vuestras preguntas para que las intentemos resolver al final de cada panel. A continuación vamos a pasar al taller sobre alianzas empresariales, que va a ser una exposición dinámica y práctica sobre las ventajas de establecer alianzas en el camino a la
of establishing business partnerships towards internationalization. It will consist of two parts. We will have a lecture called Business Partnerships and Business Cooperation by Álvaro Muñoz, Deputy General Director of Internationalization and Digitalization of the Madrid Regional Government, and David Carnicer Sospedra, CEO at Consortia SL. And afterwards, we will have Jacobo Pérez Soba, who is coordinator of the one-stop internationalization window community, who will talk about this project. Welcome, everyone, and the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias.
Well, thank you very much.
Yo soy Álvaro Muñoz Camacho.
My name is Álvaro Muñoz Camacho, and first of all, I would like to thank the entire organization of Madrid Platform for putting this event together and for giving us the opportunity to be with you today. With us today is David Carnicer, who is an expert on business partnerships, and Jacobo Pérez Soba, who is the coordinator of the One-Stop Internationalization Window, VUI, that provides support to export for entrepreneurs, for SMEs, and for all types of companies, freelancers. And this is a service that is an initiative of the Madrid Chamber of Commerce and the Madrid Regional Government, and is aimed at supporting companies in these procedures towards internationalization, to answer any doubt that they may have. For example, Brexit, that's one of the main topics. And at this initiative, we provide training and programs that foster internationalization and combine it with the digital transformation. And we are aimed at SMEs, as they are the ones who have or face more difficulties from an economic perspective or from a staff perspective or a knowledge perspective. But these are also companies that have a great advantage, and it's that they have greater flexibility. And so with this program, with the promotion of business cooperation, what we aim to do is help them overcome these bottlenecks in their process towards internationalization, and that they can build on this opportunity. That is why it is a pleasure to have David Carnicer, who will now talk about this thing that is called business cooperation. Good morning, everyone. We will now address this very known and yet complicated issue, which is establishing partnerships and cooperation. And we will see this from the point of view of internationalization. And so what we're going to talk about here is the advantages of internationalization, the most common formulas, and we will also see the difficulties, how to establish partnerships in a way that is effective and long-lasting. And to that end, we will make this presentation. These are the contents that we will see today. We will see this very briefly. First of all, why am I here? Well, I am a consultant, and I specialize in internationalization and business strategies, and I have over 30 years of experience promoting partnerships and consortia. Here you have a little representation, a sample of the entities that I've been working with up until today, with the goal of fostering strategic partnerships, normally aimed at internationalization, which is what we were going to talk about here. Now, why should we talk about partnerships or cooperation for internationalization? I think it is very clear that today the pathway towards internationalization is increasingly common. Before, we used to talk about exporting sectors and companies that worked internationally. Today, the world is open to everyone and to all types of companies. Even personally, it is easier to mobilize, to move to other countries, and to live in an international environment. And this, in principle, opens a number of opportunities, but they're not always easy. For a long time, there's been a favorable process towards internationalization, resulting from circumstantial aspects, but now it is heavily influenced by globalization. So we know that when we talk about globalization, we talk about opening ourselves to other markets, we talk about starting activities in international markets in many ways. We know that there are many opportunities for internationalization. We know that we now find market segments that can be used in several countries. We know that it is increasingly easy to perform parts of our manufacturing process in different countries. We buy in one country, we manufacture in a different country, and we distribute in a different countries. And we have other financial instruments to harness all this. There are many markets that have been exploited by large companies, and they have made a benefit of scale economies, but now that is at the hand of any SME. There are many companies, all types of styles and sizes that can go abroad and should look abroad in case they want to compete. There are more competitors in the market, and sometimes small and medium-sized companies face more difficulties when going abroad, because, let's say, large companies have eaten part of this market. In principle, all types of companies can take advantage of this instrument. Now, today, what is the role of business cooperation? First of all, we need to take into account that partnerships could be used either to exchange, for example, this supplier-client type of partnership, or two companies that come together, or exchange knowledge, or they are also used to share structures. We will see both cases. In the context of internationalization, we could be talking about procurement center, logistics base that is shared, efforts for sharing promotion costs as well. And it is important to take into consideration that we're talking about partnerships that have a clear goal, that have a limited duration, and that have a limited coverage and cover only one part of the companies. And this is very different from merging and acquisition processes. These are processes that can be used to accelerate or to improve its position. When we talk about business cooperation, we're not talking about market share, but we're talking about sizing the company and achieving this cost sharing, achieving synergies, achieving scale economies, accessing new countries or new niche. So for everyone, it's clear what the benefits of cooperation are. They allow to accelerate processes, decrease costs, but it is always something that we need to take into consideration, that it's not always easy. As Jacobo will say, I'm pretty sure, promoting cooperation is essential for new projects and interesting projects. And cooperating has also some disadvantages. It entails a lot of effort in terms of coordination. It entails a loss of autonomy, but in general, it is positive. There are many business partnerships or cooperation options that can be used, and depending on the area that we work on, we would apply one or the other. So when we talk about internationalization, we could talk about commercial partnerships or consortia. We could be talking about export consortium, shared promotion groups. We could be talking about agreements for bulk purchases. Or in logistics, we could talk about regulating warehouses, joint ventures to make to reach specific markets. We are talking about a multitude of partnerships, and in the context that we're talking about, we would be talking about partnerships to improve our competitive position abroad. We will now develop two types of partnerships, but they are quite diverse. In terms of internationalization, the most popular are the internationalization consortia to go abroad together, and for this end, this could mean first access to airport. They could share risks and costs. It could be an engine for learning. It could be a way to increase export. It could also create commercial synergies or maintain or share logistic warehouses. There are a series of clear benefits. And when we talk about consortium, we talk about a group of companies that go abroad with a common strategic goal. But this concept changed. In the past, when we talked about consortium, we talked about a company with some experience with similar or competing products that came together in a shared structure. They shared human resources and they shared budgets to access countries, to share subsidiaries abroad, etc. And this formula has evolved, and right now we could be talking about other type of formulas. Formulas to access emerging markets, for instance, or to advocate for a brand like Spain as a source of origin. Could be also for sharing commercial networks when all the companies are open in several markets to serve new targets. So today the export consortium is a very varied concept that goes beyond what you already knew. So when we talk about consortium for export, we could talking about products that are similar or competing products. There are some examples, but products that could be marketed through the same channel in a similar way with a commitment of a specific duration. These partnerships should not be everlasting, and we will now see an example of partnerships that have over 20-year duration and are going quite well. But there are others that complete their goal after, for example, 4 years, and they decide to end this partnership. Sometimes consortium partnerships introduce a professional approach of export that allows reaching the goals. There are many areas involved. Here you have in red the most common ones. So companies from the same industry or sector, so sectoral consortia with competing or similar products that come together either to promote or market their offer, either in origin or on-site, on the destination. So these partnerships, on-site partnerships, are increasingly common, and we've made partnerships to go to emerging markets, for example, Poland. We've also made partnerships to share logistical bases in China or in India. In the renewable sector, we've completed partnerships and consortium to go to markets as complicated as Abu Dhabi in the construction area with 12 Andalusian companies, to give you an example. So there are many ways in which we can come together, but the choice of the origin and destination is particularly interesting to me. And we should also note that this is important for creating a group, as we will see in the methodology. And we need to make sure that companies are very similar, that they share goals, and that their plan is well designed and responds to a need and to a specific opportunity. And it is also important that products have a similar acceptance level at an international level. And we have an evolution here of groups. There are some areas in which we have had more development. For example, in the community of Valencia, where I come from, we established a series of partnerships in many sectors. So this is not exclusive of one sector. Food and drinks prevails because of the nature of our region, and it is very easy because the similarities are highly valued by the market. But we could be talking about very different sectors, for example, the construction industry, new technologies. We could be talking about toys, services, engineering. This is a formula that is universally applicable, as the chart showed. Here we have some examples. As we only have a limited time, and I would also like to mention these as examples very briefly. And to those people who are watching the streaming, you could click and type these addresses and check them out. But I will explain this very briefly for those who are here in the room. All these examples have a long-standing experience, a typical consortia where we group offer. Like the first one, Sinatur, that you see on the screen. These are companies that have small offer capacity in terms of quantity to access large clients. Well, they can come together to have a larger offer and then go to large accounts. So the quantity effect sometimes is important because it concentrates client, and therefore we need to have higher levels. In the case of Sinatur, they export citric fruits, and they have a large export activity. They realize that it is important to come together and then reach larger potential buyers, and this coexists with individual clients. On the other hand, we have the group that has the largest structure and also great experience, that is Concert Fruit. These are the most known and renowned ones. What we did here, we brought together companies that worked with fresh produce and fruit from Girona up until Barcelona, until Valencia. And we did that in 1999 and 2000 in the previous Eastern European countries. This evolved. First, it was to serve these markets, to serve Poland with a commercial target, and then the idea was to establish a logistical base, and in the end, they've transformed their product. They export their product, they export full loads, but now also they store them in their own facilities. They go to Krakow, where they have their own cold warehouses, their own employees, and they have products that are offered to all types of clients, large and smalls, in emerging countries. They have lots of employees, and they are the leading suppliers of bananas. And this is something that is not done in Spain, but this is something that could be included within a partnership to create opportunity. They've changed lemon, which was the basic produce in Almeria and Murcia, to be with their clients throughout the entire year. And they've gone from that to have a wide range of produce that even if they buy from external suppliers, it's still profitable. It is important to see that partnerships are okay, but it is also important to have the capacity to adapt, to earn, and to keep the market satisfied. There are more examples here. For example, we have a consortium of mining consultancy, where each company focuses on a specific area, and we've brought them together so they can reach Latin America, and they have an office there in Peru, in Chile, and they compete with large companies that also provide mining consultancy services from Australia, from the United States, and they're Spaniards, and that's always favorable because of several reasons in those countries. And of course, there was another consortium to establish Andalusian companies in that country. That is something very complicated to work on construction. And so there are companies that focus on Andalusian style, on stones, from different regions, and we've sent a person that is trained specifically for that, and the rest of stuff is locally hired. And in that way, we can make a direct marketing strategy that is different from the Italian offer that spontaneously comes alive whenever you have a luxury offer, or the Chinese competitors. And by being there, by marketing there, they've achieved great results. These are some of the examples. I invite you to look them up and click on them. There are others that you could find if you put case or name or my name, and you will find them in detail. So these are examples of how you can go to the international markets as partnerships, and how you can combine not only the commercial area, but also the logistical area, the production and manufacturing area, the idea of going to emerging markets, of doing direct marketing, of providing channels, gaining visibility, and of course, and this is the last of this, and that's why I chose this, say, mature consortium that are quite consolidated, is something that we can also include digital marketing, which is also important. Now, joint ventures are another way to achieve internationalization. In this case, this is a traditional formula that is also very interesting. As a group of Spanish companies, or from emerging countries, or from company to company. The joint ventures envisages a wider range of notions. It entails knowledge. There is a great amount of literature and methodologies to do it properly and in principle. Here we have an example on screen. We have a construction company in Granada that arrived in Colombia through a partnership with a local contractor, providing know-how, certifications, and qualification as a contractor, and facilitating access to the international market. There are other formulas that are also quite interesting. For example, the piggyback, which means joining companies who already have a commercial network in a country. This company of wind energy that we set up as a partnership in Navarra, or for companies from Navarra. We brought together 5 companies. There are now 8, so that they could share their logistical facilities, because each one had in a different countries, in Brazil, in India, and China, so that they could all together follow their clients, namely Iberdrola or Repsol, who had left for emerging markets, but also share the client base and prescribe. This was very interesting and very effective, because it allowed them to go into different markets by the hand of a group with a specific configuration. If there were quality standards. So piggyback, what they do is they use other networks, or they exchange networks to take advantage and achieve internationalization. We have other examples. For example, a large company. This is something that happens among SMEs or large companies, like Bolfoni. This is a glasses 3D glasses company from France, and it worked with projects on a Spanish company with presence in over 40 countries that provided equipment to movie theaters. So when they came together, one provided the commercial network, Projectson, which was more present abroad, and Bolfoni provided the technology, 3D glasses, which was the fundamental area of their development. We brought them together. They established a strategic plan, a feasibility study, and they repositioned through sales, one, and the other one through the introduction of its product, and became a leader. There are other temporary partnerships that are specifically known, and they are for specific opportunities, and they come into strategies for internationalization. Also, Temporary joint ventures are very common for R&D because, as you know, in cooperation projects for research have dissemination, and then they also have a part that is a commercial aspect of it. So we've promoted this type of alliances to have a way of internationalize, especially in Europe, to attract funds. It is also interesting to know that there is a public promotion of these partnerships, and the next next generation EU funds are there, and they will foster business partnerships so that they can make the most of this opportunity. Right now, we see that there are large consortia of large companies, but they will favor groups of SMEs to make use of these funds. Quite interesting, and which also could mean an opportunity for cooperation. It is important also to bear in mind that partnerships are somehow complicated. And so we've generated a model that we call intelligent or smart partnerships, published by McGraw-Hill, and I was a co-author. And what we've done is bring together science, knowledge, and experience to establish the process for long-lasting partnerships. We are based on experiences that have lasted over 20 years. There are, of course, many failures, and that's where you get all the knowledge from. And we could talk about that as well. But right now, what we've learned from that is that it is important to have tools that can help us have everything envisaged and planned. Our process has 4 phases where we focus. It is important to have one business model, and it is very important to have a feasibility study. And we have to say that we will come together for something that is meaningful. That to me is the most important part. We are going to seize an opportunity, and that opportunity we will make the most of it through a cooperation. Then we have the creation phase, which is more of a methodological nature, where others made mistakes in order to learn from that. Then the managing phase, where we will handle some indicators, and there's methodology to handle that. And then the maintenance. How do we evolve? Should we change lemons for bananas, as I said before, or should we change from the source to the target country? Should we remain with what we had? Should we transform it? It is important to have a previous figure. Partnerships are not born out of nothing. It is always important to promote the generation of partnerships. No one is an expert in partnerships. Therefore, there should be a catalyzing or a dynamizer entity that is the one that provides the instruments. We've always worked with chambers of commerce, with technological institutions, with clusters, with places where the entity, let's say the parent entity, says these partnerships are good, it is worth thinking about internationalization, come here for any project that you could think about, and we will validate it and foster it with the proper technicians. This is ideal. So, because in that way we don't make artificial projects. We take them from reality, but at the same time, people don't know how to deal with partnerships. And so from that point of view, we have someone who puts all the work and the knowledge, and that is the line of what Jacobo will talk about later. And as I said before, there are a series of phases. We have the promotion, a mentoring phase, foundational phase, a development, and a transformation phase. And well, since we have some time constraints, I will skip all this, and I will stop here, and I will just simply give the floor to Jacobo, and I remain at your disposal for any questions that you may have. Well, thank you very much, David.
Thank you so much, David. What a wonderful talk. I'd like to thank Madrid Platform and the companies that are here in person and that are also following this talk online. Thanks for joining us. The Madrid region and the Madrid Chamber of Commerce have gone down this path of strategic alliances, drawing on what David just explained. There are lots of benefits for creating these alliances and go international. But how do you do it? Sometimes we share on the same stand in a fair with the companies that have the same products as we have. Why not join and get together to create a more solid base? And this is where we come in with this idea. We, as this one-stop shop internationalization community, the idea may be very good, but if you don't have a good prenup agreement, when problems arrive, you might be heading for trouble. So we need to create a solid foundation for the way we want to function when getting together with other companies. And that is why we have drawn on an ample track record of actors that have ample experience in these matters, so that whenever we generate alliances between companies in Madrid and even more looking to Latin America, we do very much welcome alliances also with companies from other continents. As David said, we have the restructuring funding for Spain and also the funds coming from Europe for this purpose. We need a certain corporate vehicle and format to be able to harness these resources. So this is where we come in. The companies in Madrid should be the ones that lead, that monitor these endeavors. They should turn to us so that we can help them along the way towards the internationalization, to give them a proper methodology and structure to be able to access these international markets. Sometimes we're talking a very specific market. Sometimes we are talking about a given product and a part of the value chain. Sometimes we talk about a given country where there is an influx of funding that is interesting for many companies, like in Madrid, for example, where the service sector is very prominent. We have examples of late in engineering and architecture. For example, an expert in structure calculus, facades, interior AC, for example. They need to get together in order to face up to one common project and thus become much more competitive with a much more effective commercial offer and activity. So it's better to join forces than to go as a single company. But you need to have a proper export corporate group if you want to go international. You might want to use the distribution channels that already exist in a given company. But all of this has to be agreed. How are sales operations going to benefit the various members of such a venture? So to that end, we have individual one-to-one meetings with the different companies, so that the idea of this business project is the foundation of this consortium. So first we go have meetings individually with the companies that want to join up, and then we set up a framework where very professionally and also acting as a neutral agent, we broker these agreements and set up this framework, because sometimes a company wants to go for a prenup, for an agreement that encapsulates how things are going to be handled in the future. But what is important is to have this alliance scheme. And this is, as I said, where we come in from the administration, and we want to support the companies in Madrid so that they can properly harness the funding that comes from Europe and also the public funding that is available at various administration levels here in Spain, in Madrid. So we want to help these groups to become solid and stable and to be able to make their presence felt in international markets. So just come and contact us. info@boic.org. Anyway, you can look us up. You're very welcome. Maybe a company knows about potential very interesting partners, or we might tap into our own experience to look into the specific sector and find potential interesting partners. And I think that's all. We can now move on to a Q&A session if you want, either questions from the people present here or maybe also questions that come online. Just wait for the microphone, because otherwise you can't be interpreted. Thank you. José Antonio Gereño from Global Final. We do risk consulting and insurance. So we've gone for specialization and digitalization. That's our field of expertise. Looking at your field of expertise, how can you structure our field, digitalization? Are there funding opportunities available? Because it really sounds interesting. I do applaud your scheme of alliances and consortia. So first, you need to get to know the others, and then you share and collaborate. Funding for digitalization. Can you repeat? Yeah, funding for internationalization. We would just like to know if there's something structured already in existence, because we are extremely technological and we need important investment efforts. Well, I would say that you get in touch with us to our one-stop shop for internationalization, where we can answer your queries regarding the internationalization process. Furthermore, we have workshops and events that are geared to digital channels, for example, the export web, and then Ecoterms or corporate alliance programs. To be more specific, we have a number of programs, for example, to introduce companies into digital programs, B2B, most of all, so that we can link you up with other companies. And we also do have training offerings in order to increase the expertise of your staff and to be able to communicate with people in other countries. It would be interesting to know a bit more about how you function and whether you all have international experience or not. And from there on, we might be able to spot potential and a number of services where you might have a competitive edge regarding the internationalization. And once we've located that, we might dig deeper. You talked about risks, for example. I remember a company that realized that in Peru, everything concerning workplace hazards realized that there was a potential for everything that had to do with signaling and icons and logos, and they stepped in, but always based on a working methodology. So that's how we go about it. And we also divert you to potential assistance from the Chamber of Commerce, for example, the ISEX, the Export Institute in Spain. So that will be public agents and bodies that might be of help in your quest for internationalization. So if you want to drop us your calling card, we can then contact you and maybe organize meetings later on. This product I was introducing, we have it in our bui.madrid.com web page or .org. There you can find us and look up all kinds of initiatives of either of self-employed people or companies that want to take this leap to the international arena. Are there further questions? Well, I don't know about questions, but we're simply out of time. Thank you so much. That was most interesting. All these opportunities that you just explained. Thank you so much, and we will meet again in 20 minutes' time. Thank you.